Hello everyone. Hope you guys are doing great. So I'm going to finally make my video on the con call summary for TAC InfoSec Limited. If you guys have been following me or watching my videos, you might have, watched few of my earlier videos on TAC InfoSec where I spoke about their result and then how it was not as per the expectation which the company had created at the back of it. And then when the con call happened, I personally did not like the way it especially went in the starting part. So I dropped off and then I was waiting for the transcript, which came later, but only had the management part, but not the Q&A part. And obviously, personally, I raised it on Twitter to the company, and then they, uploaded the full transcript, which included the Q&A completely for me to analyze and and to make the video at the back of it. And obviously, a lot of people, a lot of you guys were waiting, and you were asking me, to give my view on it, but I actually waited for quite some time. The reason is why, because the way things happened over here, in the chronology, I was actually not happy and bit upset, and I was not in the right mind to analyze it because I knew that if with that mind I go through and analyze this con call summary, I might be a bit biased and might think negative from the company perspective. I wanted to be very neutral while analyzing it, so I took bit some time. Now finally, I've gone through the con call, especially the Q&A part. So I'm going to give my point of view and take you through the main important point. So one of the main thing, if you actually see, if you would have seen their recent revenue growth, right? H2 number grew by almost revenue grew by almost 55% to 28 crores, and PAT was up by only 37.5% to 11 crores. Full year revenue grew by almost 88% to 57 crores, and PAT was up by only around 57% to 26 crores. So if we look at the numbers on standalone basis, I mean, any company growing at this number is quite commendable, right? But actually, if you look after this H2 result came, the analysts as well as certain investors were quite a bit not happy or upset because the way the company had projected or the way they will grow, everyone expected quite a high number, especially compared to the H1, because H1 number almost grew by more than, I think, close to more than 100%. So obviously, and that how to say, that could be seen in the con call and everything. So on that, the management said the first thing is in H1, right? They had a 1 million revenue which was led by partner-led business. So making comparison to that is misleading. So one should not do that. And the second thing is they said that in the second part of the business, the majority of the revenue comes from the US side, especially on the government side, where their business was shut down for quite some time. So that also impacted the revenue. So what they're saying, and going forward, uh, the numbers should be normalized, and then we should compare H2 versus H1. If we compare the H2 versus this H1, it might be misleading. And what the company is telling, that they are along with the revenue growth, they're trying to how to say, concentrate on profitability also without compromising on it. So that is one of the reasons. So this is the reasons that they gave. For me, I found it a bit reasonable, but not that convincing. And before I go into the Q&A, I'll just tell you the management's 2030 plan, which they spoke, when they were giving the presentation, right? So it's quite simple, right? They want to achieve 10,000 customer, which they have already achieved that. Then they want to retain those clients, and after retaining those clients, they want to cross sell enterprise software, then cross sell Socify, cross sell compliance, right? And what they want to do on an average from all these 10,000 customers, they want to achieve annual recurring revenue of around close to $10,000, which will help them achieve their target of 100 million, annual recurring revenue. So that is their plan, what the management again reiterated. Okay. So one should remember this when, going through this video and what the management has said. So if you look at the questions, right? So the first question, so I've taken only the important ones which are required and which I think is more useful. So first of question was asked that you guys have already acquired 10,000 customers already, and you had said that on an average, 1 lakh is the revenue from each client at this point of time. So the overall revenue should be close to 100 crores. So why uh, was it not that? So what the management, the answer that they gave is right. First of all, the concentration was on customer acquisition, not on increasing the overall revenue. First, they wanted to get the customers into their business, and then in future they're going to cross sell it. And the other thing which they said, which I think was quite surprising to me and to all the other people, is right. What they said, that not all customers are active for the whole year. So even though they might have 10,000 customers, you know, in their system. Not all of them might be using all the services at any given point of time. And even though the numbers are there, they might not contribute to the revenue. So that is one thing one should be aware of while following this business again and seeing how their revenue grows. So that is one thing which was, I mean, I wouldn't say shock, but it was a surprise because the last con call which I heard, it was never mentioned before. And the other interesting thing is at the back of it. So one of the analysts clearly asked that going forward, can you share a split of overall client as well as active client? So the from 10,000 client is the active client, and how much are actually contributing. So over there also, the management said that they will try to do that, but they have another challenge would be that even though when they prepare the presentation, at that time the clients might not be active, but in the coming days they might become active. So that is also one thing they said one should be aware of. So that is on the 10,000 client. And the other thing what happened is, right, on the Socify, so this new product and everything on the Socify launch, the company has said that in the next 2 years, they are going to, for this specific product, going to acquire around close to another 10,000 customers. So the analyst said that it has been only 6 months and you have achieved only 100 clients. So what are your plans for the remaining time and everything in order to uh, achieve it? So what the management is saying that they're still trying to achieve that number, but in the first 6 months, the priority was to get good logos, which means good companies as their customers, and so whom they can cross sell and increase their revenue, and they want to responsibly grow. That's what that they said. And now what they're saying is that they're not going to give any quarterly guidance. I think what the management said, right, because we have given certain guidance, thinking it might be achieved, but it hasn't been achieved. I mean, people are reacting in the wrong way. So they said overall guidance still remains the same, but in terms of quarterly guidance, how they'll achieve, they will not provide it anymore. I think what the management have realized in the past 1 year, especially in this quarter, is right that when any guidance is given, the way analysts and others or the shareholders look at it, they are expecting it to be achieved. And what the management possibly thought is like, okay, this is what we are trying to do. We might achieve or might not achieve. I think that was not communicated that clear. So that could be also one of the challenges. But what the management is very confident is, right, even though we are not giving you this target, but they are confident of their 2030 plan. So that the management is quite confident. And if we, other question which came was threat from cloud, the Anthropic company, right, their cloud platform, right? So the management is very clear. There is no threat for them at all. Actually, Anthropic has become their own client, so they don't see any challenges. And the other question which was asked was related to Cyberscope NASDAQ listing, right? So earlier, if you would have read their con calls or followed the company, right, the company was saying that they're going to, list this Cyberscope company on NASDAQ and everything, and it was supposed to happen this financial year, but it never happened. So what the management gave the reason that earlier the SEC approval was received. SEC is nothing but like how we have SEBI over here. Then what happened? Then afterward, NASDAQ rules were changed after they had filed for the IPO. So what they had to do, they had to refile the whole IPO against the new rule. So now they are waiting for NASDAQ approval. So even though this company is going to get listed and they're going to get some money at the back of it, but TAC Security InfoSec would still be the majority owner of this company. And in terms of capital raising and acquisition, right? Question was asked, how are you going to grow the business? Are you going to raise capital to grow further, or are you going to, acquire, grow inorganically also? So management said they are open to both. So, but they prefer equity back growth. So, by raising equity, but they will definitely also explore, how to say, depth side of raising money in terms of acquisitions are available. So these were the main things, right? So overall, and if we look from the guidance perspective, when it was asked, the management clearly refused that they'll not give any guidance for FY27. What they're saying is that please refer to our 2030 vision. We are definitely going to achieve that. So I think what the management has realized, the way their business is, sometimes it's not as expected, like in a linear way it will grow. It might have ups and downs. So if they might give some guidance, and if that guidance is not achieved, then the investor, the shareholders might overreact. So they are very now cautious about it, but they are very confident that they're going to grow and they're going to achieve that. And as I told you, right, their plan is very simple. They already got 10,000 customers. They want to retain them. They want to cross sell all their products and increase their average revenue from each customer to $10,000. So that is their whole plan. But in terms of guidance, they have not given anything. So that's all. But personally, what I see, right, as this company is newly listed, plus they are into a completely new space of cybersecurity, there is not much comparison in the market where you can, compare and see whether how they are doing, what they are saying is completely right or wrong, which is quite a bit challenging. So people who have invested, they have to wait and see how things progresses. Like personally, just a disclosure, I have personally invested in this company. So for me, the way things have gone, I'll be more careful going forward. I will see how the execution goes forward, how they are, are they able to increase their revenue year by year to achieve that target which they're giving, or it's getting more difficult for them. So all has to be keeping into account, because you need to understand, if it was any other company, let's take a steel company or FMCG company, or a company manufacturing some pipes and everything, what you can do, right, you have other players also in the market where you can compare and see how things are going. But here, that is one of the big challenge. And because they are into a completely new field, how things are going to progress, how things are going to pan out, no one knows. So one just have to wait and see. That's why I'm not saying that I distrust the management. Yes, but I think the management has learned their lesson in terms of the guidance and not achieving it. So that's why they are more careful in not giving the guidance at all, but they are, focusing on their long-term plan. So, but we have to wait and see how things progresses, right? We have to look at the H1 number, which are going to come this year, and whether they're able to increase their revenue, whether the average revenue per customer is increasing or not, whether their annual recurring revenue is increasing or not. Those are the most important things, because that's only we will come to know that whatever they are targeting, they will be able to achieve it in 2030, because they have only how to say, only around 3.5 years left to achieve the target what they have done from the current number that they have. So let's see how they progress, but I'll definitely keep an eye on that. And if you like this analysis, please do hit like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you and God bless.